Today, I'm going to continue my series that I just started on the benefits of overcoming insomnia now. In the last video, I highlighted the first benefit of overcoming insomnia, which is an improved mood. And today, I'm going to talk about another benefit, which is consistent sleep. My name is Dr. Steve Orma, and I'm a clinical psychologist and a specialist in helping people overcome insomnia, get their sleep back to a normal, healthy pattern, and do that without taking medications. When I work with clients, I use 3 measures to assess whether someone has overcome insomnia or not. How do you know when you go from having insomnia to not having insomnia? Because it's not like an all of a sudden thing that happens in one moment, but it's sort of a gradual thing. And how do you know when you're actually past insomnia? Those 3 measures are sleep quantity, sleep quality, and sleep consistency. Sleep quantity is how much sleep you're getting on average per night. And what we generally want to see with most people is somewhere between 7 to 8 hours. Sleep quality is getting this deep, restful sleep, feeling restored and refreshed the next day. And sleep consistency is seeing these first 2 consistent over time each week for the long term. So you're getting consistently the right number of hours of sleep for you, and you're getting consistently good sleep quality on most nights over the long term. What I want to focus on today is the benefit of consistent sleep when you overcome insomnia. When you have insomnia, sleep is inconsistent. First of all, the quantity varies every night. Now, sometimes people have kind of a consistency for a while of I'm getting, 4 hours of sleep a night or 5 hours, but generally that will vary over time and vary each night. The second thing that's inconsistent is when you have insomnia varies, meaning that insomnia is difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or both. And that can vary night to night, meaning some nights people don't have difficulty falling or staying asleep, and some nights they do. And generally, to meet the criteria for insomnia, you need to have difficulty falling or staying asleep for 3 nights or more over a period of time. So you don't necessarily have to have difficulty sleeping every single night, and a lot of people with insomnia don't. Some nights they fall asleep fine, and other nights they have great difficulty falling asleep. Some nights they fall asleep and then have difficulty going back to sleep when they wake up, and some nights they don't have that difficulty. And this is actually one of the very frustrating things about insomnia is the inconsistency, because you don't know what to expect. There's a lot of uncertainty. Am I going to sleep tonight or am I not going to sleep tonight? I hope I sleep well. What if I don't? And that feeds into the worry and the anxiety around the sleep, is that inconsistency. Another thing that's inconsistent is how you feel the next day. That will vary. And this is both emotionally and physically. So some days after a night of sleep, you'll feel better, you'll feel more positive, you'll feel more emotionally up, probably on the nights that you slept better, but not always. Sometimes people don't sleep well or don't sleep at all, and they actually feel okay the next day, meaning they still have a good amount of energy, and it's very surprising. And this is one of those paradoxes about sleep and insomnia that confuse people sometimes. How can I get no sleep and then still have energy and be awake the next day? I've talked about that. That's the hyperarousal that kicks in when you have insomnia, and the circadian rhythm that compensates for the lost sleep. But obviously over time, you're still not feeling very good, right? It's not like you can go with no sleep and feel great every day. That's going to catch up, but it's inconsistent. The point here is that some days you might feel fine or better. Some days you feel horrible, and that varies both emotionally and physically when you have insomnia. And the last thing that's also inconsistent when you have insomnia is the sleep pattern. So your sleep pattern is simply, over a given week, let's say, or a given month, what's the pattern of the sleep? So that means what kind of insomnia are you having each night? Are you having difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep? Are you waking up early? How many nights a week is that happening? Is that happening on certain nights, and other nights it's not happening? So there's a very inconsistent pattern. Now that could remain consistent for a week or 2, but usually it changes over time. And if you've had insomnia for any period of time, for a few months or longer, generally what you've seen is the insomnia doesn't stay completely consistent. You don't have insomnia on the same nights every week for the same period of time, and it's going to vary each week. Some weeks might be better, some weeks are worse. And again, the human body is not a machine in that way, and therefore it varies, because the insomnia varies, how you're responding to it varies, how you're thinking about it, what else is going on in your life varies, and that makes the sleep very inconsistent when it isn't very solid and resilient. So just to recap those things that are inconsistent when you have insomnia, the quantity of sleep varies each night. night. When you have insomnia, whether you have insomnia on a particular night, difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep will vary. How you feel the next day will vary emotionally and physically, sometimes based on how you slept, and sometimes it doesn't seem to be connected to how you slept, but that will vary. And then your sleep pattern will change and vary over time, meaning, how are you sleeping night to night, week to week, what kind of insomnia you're having, what nights you're having that insomnia on. So all of these things can be inconsistent. Some of them can be consistent when someone has insomnia and other things aren't. So even these things can be inconsistent with each individual person. But overall, you're seeing variations in all or at least some of these areas. Now, when you get rid of insomnia, when you overcome it and get rid of it completely, all of these things will become consistent. Number one, the quantity of sleep that you're getting will stay within a consistent kind of tight range. When you have insomnia, you could have like 3 hours of sleep one night and then 7 hours the next night, or you could have 4 hours one night and 6.5 the next night. And the quantity varies, and you're also not getting enough quantity because, again, for most people, the minimum amount of sleep that you want to be getting on average is around 7 hours. For some people, it's more. So if you're only getting on average 6 hours a night, even if it's consistent, that's still a problem in terms of the insomnia. So what you see when you overcome insomnia is the quantity is consistent, and generally you'll be within a tighter range. So it might be, you'll get between 7 and 7.5 hours a night consistently, or you'll get between 7.5 and 8 hours consistently. So it may not be exactly the same every night, but you'll see a consistent average that won't vary too much. It'll still be within that 7 to 8 hour range almost every night over the long term. Secondly, you will sleep well on most nights. That means both quantity and quality of sleep will be good on most nights over the long term. You're not seeing like some nights are good, some nights are bad, but generally things are good. Some nights might be better, but there's sort of a place that you don't go below in terms of how good the sleep is. And that's very consistent over weeks and months of time. Okay. Next thing that's consistent when you overcome insomnia is that you will only have poor nights of sleep very occasionally. So everybody will have a poor night of sleep from time to time. And when you don't have insomnia, usually that's caused by a stressor that's sort of immediate in your life. Let's say you are changing jobs or you're moving. So it's a kind of a temporary stressor that you have to adjust to, and that might interfere with your sleep for a short period of time. That is not insomnia. That's just normal poor sleep because things come up in life and we have to deal with them. It could also be caused by things like jet lag, or you had some indigestion or digestive problems the previous night from something you ate, and so that disturbed your sleep. But these are short-term things, and they only happen very occasionally. So when you have a poor night of sleep, will just be very occasionally, maybe every couple of months or every few months. I mean, it varies between person, but generally you don't have those nights that often, and sleep is generally good every night. The next thing that's consistent is the quality, meaning you feel rested and restored and refreshed on most days after you sleep. So you wake up in the morning and generally you feel rested, restored, you had enough sleep, that you feel refreshed, and that you got recovery over the night. And that's on most nights that you're getting that sleep and you're waking up feeling that way during the day. Another thing that's consistent when you get over insomnia is you generally don't think a lot about sleep. Now, I didn't mention this in the negatives, that people, when they have insomnia, they think a lot about their sleep, but that is something that generally is more consistent, is the worries around the sleep. But when you overcome insomnia, you don't really think about sleep much anymore. You generally just expect that you're going to sleep. You go to sleep, you sleep well, you wake up, you go on with your day, and sleep becomes much less of a focus because it's just this automatic thing that you expect is going to be there because now you have confidence in your ability to sleep. And that's something that comes from once you get past insomnia, is that confidence again that your body can sleep well. So generally sleep becomes this sort of non-issue, this thing that you don't really have to focus on much in your life. It actually can become enjoyable and peaceful and calm. You could look forward to going to sleep because sleep has been good, and you feel good when you're sleeping and you feel good when you wake up. And it now has this very positive kind of experience to it. And the last thing that I want to say here is sleep will generally get better over time. So once you overcome insomnia and you get past it and you're seeing all these benchmarks that I mentioned, the sleep quantity, quality, and the consistency that we're focusing on today, if you maintain that and you learn how to do that when you go through the treatment for insomnia, which I'll talk about in a minute, you learn how to maintain that really good sleep over time because you learn really good good skills and practices and principles around your sleep that as long as you just continue making those a habit, your sleep will get better and better and better over time. And they've done outcome studies with cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBT-I. That's the gold standard treatment that you want to do if you have insomnia. And they've tracked people for up to 10 years after going through that process to see, did they maintain that? Did the insomnia come back? And for up to 10 years that they've measured, they keep the insomnia away and the sleep actually gets better and better each year because they're continuing to practice good principles of sleep, and their sleep pattern gets stronger and stronger and more recovered over time. And that's another thing that you'll see because of that consistency, the sleep just gets stronger and better quality over time. Okay, so just to recap those things in terms of what becomes consistent, the quantity or how much you're sleeping every night is generally the same or within a very tight range. You generally are sleeping well every night, meaning the quality and the quantity of the sleep is consistent. You have good sleep basically each night over time. You only have very occasional poor nights of sleep, maybe once every month or 2 months, or when you have a stressor for a very short period, you'll have some poor sleep, but then you get right past it and back to a normal, healthy, good pattern of sleep. You generally feel rested and restored each night and each morning when you wake up and through the day when you're having really good quality, consistent sleep. The sleep becomes more positive as well. You feel better about your sleep. You feel peaceful about it. You start enjoying sleep more. And that's also a consistent thing. And you stop thinking about sleep that much. It just becomes a non-issue in your life. And then the last thing is that sleep will generally get better and better over time once you overcome insomnia and you maintain the basic principles around the sleep, just good sleep habits over time to maintain it. And it generally will just get stronger and better. This is the rewards of overcoming insomnia now, is getting to that place where you have this really solid consistency with your sleep that maybe you had before the insomnia, or maybe you never had it. Maybe you've always struggled with sleep and this is something you've never experienced. It's obviously a very positive experience when you're having this consistency in your sleep. If this is something that you want and you want to be able to get past the insomnia, the way to do it is through cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBT-I, which is the gold standard treatment, the first line treatment for insomnia. And I talk about it a lot, and it's the treatment that I highly recommend that you do, and that you do it correctly and you do it in the right way. And I have a playlist that I've created for CBT-I. I'll put a link to that in the notes underneath the video. And in that playlist, I go over what CBT-I is and what are the key skills that you want to do, that you want to make sure are in it. And then I have a video on where you can find it and all different kinds of aspects of CBT-I so you know what the treatment involves. But it's a wonderful treatment. It's very powerful. It works with the way your body normally sleeps, and that's why it's so effective. And then you learn at the end, as I was saying, how to prevent relapse, how to prevent insomnia from coming back, and how to maintain that good, consistent, healthy sleep over time. So I hope you found today's video and another benefit of overcoming insomnia now helpful. If you did, press the like button, and you can subscribe to the channel as well. I do 2 of these videos every week. I'm going to continue this series, and I'm going to really highlight these benefits of overcoming insomnia and all the great things that happen when you do that, just to give you that inspiration and that motivation to get past this insomnia for good, finally be able to get past it and get your sleep back to a good place. So I hope you have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next time.